Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by the 2019 Legends of Pittsburgh Cruise. You could bring the kids on this unforgettable vacation and make memories that last a lifetime with all of these legends of Pittsburgh, former and current Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as local and national entertainers. Call or click today and guarantee your spot. You can visit steelcityunderground.com/legendscruise or call 877-381-5553 and use promo code SCU19 when booking. The cruise is for all ages. We hope to keep this podcast the same way following what might be one of the most crushing and disappointing losses of the 2018 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. My name is Joe Kuzma, and as I join you along with my co-host Brian E. Roach for this, wish we could call it a happy Festivus. Unfortunately, it's not happy, but we're still going to air all of our grievances as promised earlier today on Twitter. Brian, I'd ask how you're doing, but I already know.
Maybe this is really, like you said, we said this offline, maybe this is a really short show. Hashtag the ref stinks. See you later. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
His name's Joe. My name's Brian, and we're just kidding. And we do have a little bit more to say. Steelers fall to 8-6-1. And as I say that means that their season hanging in a balance now, and they're going to need some help. They did not receive that help the night before with the Chargers forgetting that they play professional football against the Baltimore Ravens. I guess when you don't get calls that go in your way, you can't win games, and that would be true as of this game as well. But before I get into all of that, because, you know, people are going to call you and I homers for saying this, regardless of Ryan Shazier and Charlie Batch and many other Pittsburgh personalities saying the exact same thing about these pass interference calls. I'm just going to go back to there's a couple of games where the Steelers, particularly I think about the Broncos, I think about the Raiders games recently, where they could have controlled their destiny a little bit better. And even in this game themselves, Stephen Ridley doesn't fumble. Not so upset. Maybe we'll talk about the fake punt play and some of the maybe analytics that went into that and even my own thinking. But definitely like the fumble or maybe, you know, a 3-and-out, getting the ball right back. I thought overall, though, I thought the Steelers played an excellent game considering what they were up against.
Yeah, sorry. I was fading into misery.
It's more disappointment for me, but there's definitely I feel probably the same frustration that all of those guys in the locker room do right now.
Yeah, here's the thing. This is the kind of game where, yes, some stuff happened. The Ridley fumble, the Juju fumble at the end of the game, unfortunate circumstances. But at the same time, the Steelers, they played a game that was good enough to win. And we said this in the Chargers game, and I'm going to say it again. The Steelers are good enough to beat any team in the league. What they're not good enough is to beat two teams at the same time. The ones wearing the opposite uniforms and the ones wearing the stripes. And I know we're going to go through this, but it isn't just homers in this instance. You've got every media and analyst, every ref analyst, every officiating guru out there who said these are horrible calls. It's not just us.
Yeah, we don't even have to. I don't know how you could even. I know that your sanity is probably gone by now, and that's why you're laughing. Yeah, you got a little chuckle out of me. Gene Steratore, the best he could say on that. I tweeted this out when it happened. It was 4th and 1, and Joe Hayden called for probably the worst pass interference call that I've seen in my life. And I said it was probably the worst call I've seen all year, and that's really saying something. I already felt like a game was taken away with the Chargers, and that one certainly You know, the Steelers had some opportunities here. They had it at the end. They had the drive where there was a fumble, kind of almost, you know, reminiscent to me of a Denver Broncos playoff game not too long ago where Fitzgerald Toussaint fumbled the ball and they lose in, you know, the closing minutes. And Juju's fumble at the end, very unfortunate. Doesn't get a body part down. That's, you know, you're in real time there. You're getting spun around and you just don't happen to have anything hit the ground and the ball gets punched out, this and that. And there's no I don't really call him a fall guy or anything like that, but when you have, and I know you saw this on the second one, there's videos out there, you've got all kinds of people saying this, even Dave Damashek, that's, you know, one of these NFL Network guys. You got Gene Steratore who says, well, I don't know, the referee must have had a different angle of it. And this is all a game of angles. You see something from a certain angle, and you think you saw something that wasn't there. And I've been guilty of it in my own profession myself, officiating a different sport, that happens. And that's Gene's polite way of saying he blew the call because he can't see what that official says, and he's politely saying, well, this is what he may have seen in that position and that angle, but you cannot. The ball is so not only over Kamara's head. What are these guys supposed to do now? Are they going to get rid of hand checks in the NBA if they had the NFL type rules? You can't place a pinky on someone, but yet you have instances throughout the game, and we've got many of them where I said, you know, how many flags are you going to have for pass interference? Because if you're lowering the bar this low, and you're going to call that on Hayden and put the ball right at the 1. And give the Saints points right there. This is what we're saying here, folks. You know, that's 4th and 1. The ball turns over right there. Steelers cover this game easily. Very frustrating. Then you come back to 4th and 2 later in the game with Joe Hayden again, who, you know, this isn't a guy who gets called for pass interference a whole lot. This is a guy who was just the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. And ball is thrown, and questionably that ball may have hit someone that was up on the line, maybe TJ Watt or someone, or Cam. There was no definitive replay to even show us if it was tipped. If it's tipped, that flag gets picked up. And let's just say it doesn't. The ball's thrown behind. Is it Michael Thomas that was intended for? I'm assuming since it was Hayden covering him. I can't remember at this point. It's thrown behind him and nearly picked off. And I just don't. Morgan Burnett gets dinged for one, too. Third down play, maybe, but a good chunk of yards once again, where he swats the ball down out of one of the tight ends, probably Hill's hands. I think it was Hill and it wasn't Ben Watson. You know, even that one, okay, we'll take that one off the board. The 2 on Hayden on 4th downs led to touchdown scoring drives for the Saints. The other one on Morgan Burnett also led to a touchdown. And the touchdown that was scored that gave the Steelers the best scenario of having actual more time on the clock. Thank God, because if he was still in bounds, they have no timeouts, and that's just even a worse situation for them. If you're going to call pass interference, does it work both ways where Michael Thomas completely shoves Joe Hayden out of the way in order to create that separation to catch the ball? I was almost in the first quarter ready to just I don't shut the game off. It's the Steelers. I love them.
Right.
Aside from wife and kid, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, the third thing on the list, you know, you got family, you got family, you got God, and then you got Steelers football. It's pretty much the way, almost interchangeably in that way. And they all, you know, they could all upset you in the same sort of ways, you know. And it's one of those things where, okay, I'm not going to shut this off, but if I were a casual fan, I'm so fed up with the way these games are, and they're certainly not the only game. I watched other games, not only today, but also last night with some of the calls that were just, there were some egregious things there. It's just, it's almost something where I equate it to, I stopped watching the NBA because everyone flopped and everything was a foul. And I'm almost getting that way with the NFL now.
Yeah, it was the first, as we said, the first interference call was so completely bogus that it was almost impossible to keep going. And then you get a second call. Like the Morgan Burnett call, maybe he got there a tad early, but he's trying to go around the guy and hit the ball. There supposedly is something in the rule that says the defensive player has the same amount of right to the ball. So, you know, maybe that one is legit. Maybe it's not. But even the one at the end of the game against Joe Hayden, also a bogus call. And yes, the pass was tipped. It's been repeatedly shown. I think I even saw it on Twitter. I saw a replay that shows it, but nobody ever talked about it. The announcers missed it. Everybody missed it, but it was tipped. Cam Hayward got his hand on it. That should have been picked up. It wasn't. Nobody ever said a word about it. There's false starts. I mean, it's just this constant officiating. And look, I hate the refs. There's no look, the ref stinks. Hashtags the refs stink. But I hate being the guy that tries to say the reason you lose games is because of the refs. Because even as bad as they are, they're not the reason you lose games. However, in the Chargers game and in this game, where calls legitimately put points on the board for the other team, it's a different story. And I think I tweeted this out. There's a picture of Batman and Robin where Batman is kind of slapping Robin around. And I said, the next time people tell me, somebody comes up to me and says, oh, the Steelers get all the calls their way, this is what I'm going to do to them. And it's because that's just not the case. And I don't think there's a conspiracy against the Steelers. I think the refs are just universally horrible. When they start to impact the game the way that they have done this season, it takes a product that is probably the most entertaining product out there, sports-wise, and diminishes it. It is hard to watch games. It was hard to watch the Eagles game earlier with the bad officiating that was going on in there. And it was hard to watch this game knowing that you couldn't depend on just the play of the players to make a difference in the game. You were going to have to hope that the refs didn't decide to make their impact felt, and they did. And there's just no two ways about it. Call me a homer, call me a yinzer, call me whatever you want. The reason the Steelers lost against the Chargers has in great part due to the refereeing. The reason they lost this game is in great part due to the refereeing. Should they be good enough to overcome it? Probably. But are any teams truly good enough to overcome playing two teams? I don't know. I don't want to keep ranting about it, but it does make these games difficult to watch.
It does. You want to support your team, and you just never know if, 3 to 5 seconds later, the hanky's going to come out. Now, here's something that I don't know that a lot of people are aware of, but the NFL referees started wearing these headsets to communicate with one another on the field a couple years ago. You never used to see the flags come out like that. I mean, you get a late flag here and there, but it now almost seems like you got something? Yeah, I got something, and then they all do it to kind of back each other up, as in the case of the Hayden one. And you're right, and I hate saying this because I think we try to have some sort of professionalism, air of integrity, lend some credibility, and when we complain about calls, we sound like those guys. But this is yet another one of these games where not just one call, but with the exception of Jesse James caught it last season against the Patriots, very seldom is there one call that you could go to and not point out something where a team screwed up themselves and shot themselves in the foot. Very difficult to overcome three pass interference calls and a pass interference no call and still come out in this one. And there's more. There's way more. On the one where Morgan Burnett hits the ball away, there's a false start that's just as bad almost as the one in the Chargers game. It was, once again, that was the right tackle in their game. This would have been the left tackle in this game, where he jumps back a full step before the ball snapped with no call whatsoever. And that would have totally negated the whole need for a pass interference there because the play would have never happened. And it's just, I don't know what else to say about this. Antonio Brown has his arm pinned behind him on one. No call. I believe that was a third down as well. And It's like anytime Antonio Brown, this was Neil Coulong, our buddy that's with he's the USA Today NFL team of sports writers of some capacity. Neil's been on the show in the past. And I think it was Neil who tweeted out something like, if I see Antonio Brown only going up for a ball with one hand, it usually means his other one is being held or something like that.
Absolutely.
And it was. And somebody else on Twitter backed me up on it. I know that's not very much verification there, or, the stamp of approval. Oh, some random person on Twitter. But I'm like, am I seeing something here? It totally looks like his hand's being pulled behind. Instead, you get some bogus makeup call with Eli Apple on Juju Smith-Schuster, which was, again, more egregious than the one with Joe Hayden and Kamara that's set up right at the beginning of the game. And, that's what I'm trying to say here is when you have all these calls that aren't that as obvious, it's like, are you going to let the players decide the game, or are you going to decide the game with these calls? I think the biggest problem the NFL has right now with pass interference, I think you're going to see this getting changed. And this is odd because we saw, I don't know, did you watch the Ravens and Chargers? How many offensive pass interference calls were there in that game? Let alone the few other games I've watched in the last week or two. It seems like they're calling a lot of these. And, Craig Rolstad's crew apparently didn't get the memo.
Well, and I think one of the beat writers, it might have been Dale Lally, one of the guys who's out there and is a Steelers reporter, reported about this crew, especially as the way they call penalties on home versus team, versus away, and they predominantly call penalties against away teams. They are a homer crew. And we've heard the term home cooking before. This is a crew that whatever team there is their host, man, they must be getting fed well.
Yeah,
because it's something like, I mean, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was nearly double the amount of penalties being called against away teams versus home teams, and that's just not realistic. It's I guess we can lament this forever, and it'll be this game and the Chargers game are going to be much like Jesse caught it. I'm going to have a hard time letting go of them. I'm going to argue with people next year, let alone tomorrow or tonight, who want to tell me that I'm just whining because the refs are bad. It's not. And I would say the same thing if these kind of calls were impacting another team. It's just bad. But the other thing is, to give the nation some hope, they're not done yet.
No.
It's close, but we all need to get out our, mud-colored stuff and try and be Browns fans for a week. We got to take care of business against the Bengals next weekend, but, we got to be Browns fans. If the Browns can beat the Ravens, which the way they've been playing isn't unbelievable, is possible, and the Steelers beat the Bengals, we're still in. So it's not time to give up yet. And I want to say something because I've been monitoring Twitter. Leave Juju alone. Leave Juju alone.
One of the most fun guys out there. Please don't make him close his Twitter account.
Yeah, leave Juju alone. I mean, look, he's a young guy. He made a mistake on a great play by a good player, right? I mean, Rankins comes in and knocks the ball away. That guy gets paid professionally too. Yes, maybe Juju could have done a better job of securing the ball, but he's trying to get more yards. They're trying to win the game. Stuff happens.
He's trying to hit the deck so he could get right back up and either clock it or run another play. I mean, he wasn't even – I wouldn't even say he was necessarily trying to extend the play so much as he was – the way he was tackled, he was kind of suspended in midair. This is nothing like Ridley, who should have been going in there with both arms over the ball and head down. I don't want
to talk about him.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck – I don't know what the heck he was thinking, and even a field goal there makes the game a whole different situation, which, by the way – we haven't talked about any grown-ass men. There were a number of grown-ass men in this game. And
there were.
I kind of want to toss one over to Chris Boswell for all the crap he has had to – not only the way he has played this year and being down and having his job basically on the line, but just, making 2 field goals, making 2 extra points in this game. I actually felt halfway – confident that if it came down to him having, I almost thought at the beginning of the game this was going to be one of these games where he kicks 6 field goals, and he's in a dome, 49-yarder to set the tone right at the beginning, 30-yarder, both PATs. I gotta give my hats off to him because that's a major bounce back, because mentally he had to be wrecked. He had to go off the grid with Twitter because people were telling him to kill himself. It's like, if you're a fan, Brian, on Sundays, I almost wish, I'm not going to name any teams specifically as to not disparage their fan base should they happen to tune into this, but I almost wish I was a fan of one of these. Well, the Steelers are kind of close, I guess, at 8-6-1. I wish I was one of these teams that was like barely 500 that I have no expectations of, so that I can enjoy winning when they do, instead of feeling entitled to winning and every week when they don't. It's almost like people they wouldn't believe this. I know you believe this, but our listeners probably wouldn't believe that people actually go out of their way to take it out on us, like myself or Brian or Zach Meckler or any. We have nothing to do with the Steelers organization. I still think they played. Think they had a good game plan. I don't know that there was anything execution-wise that was completely flawed. I know some people are going to go back and look at the fake punt play, which I think it was an okay call there, because if you're Jordan Berry and you end up kicking it out of the back of the end zone, it's not much of a field position battle. I looked at how much time was left on the clock. I know that Mike Tomlin was thinking, well, they have a good offense. I feel confident in my defense, but they have to score a touchdown. And if they do score a touchdown, that's going to leave us enough points or enough time to come back and do whatever. And, if they, once again, it's one of those things, it's a cliche. Eric Herman tweeted this out, one of our guys, and we've said this cliche many times before: genius if it works, and stupid if it doesn't work. And in that case, Rosie kind of looked foolish, because I don't know if he was intending to just kind of go down and protect the ball, and he thought he had the line of gain, or if he was just straight up short. And 4th and 5 is real gutsy. That's the part where I kind of question. He had 4 yards practically. And, you punt the ball away there. I don't know. I don't know if it really necessarily does you any much more favors. I mean, here's the main difference. You saw Drew Brees under heavy pressure that next series, and guess what he does? He throws the ball away. Ben holds onto the ball, waiting for the second coming here, and gets sacked, and they lose yards there. So it's not like you don't even resort to being that fancy there, because perhaps you live to fight another day. You get a new set of downs instead of having to resort to any type of gimmicks or anything of that nature. It's a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation where you call that play. Tomlin uses his timeouts late in the game. Is this a product of having everyone criticize him prior to that? So I don't get on Juju for a fumble. I more or less get on Ridley. And I really get on some of these game-changing penalty flags as the cause for a 3-point loss.
Yeah, I actually applaud the fake punt, and the reason I applaud it is it's aggressive. It's showing, you're on the road, you're in a hostile environment, you've got a chance to salt this game away if it works, and you're putting your defense in a tough position, but they're in the middle of the field. It's not like they're deep in their own territory. And I applaud it. It didn't work. I'm not going to go back and say I didn't like the call. I did like the call. I get it. I will guarantee you 99% of the Yinzers who hate that call would love that call if it works.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
with the season on the line.
Anyway.
Yeah, with the season on the line.
There are some who are going to hate it either way. But, yeah. The season's on the line, and you're showing fire, right? You're showing that you're trying to do everything you can to win. I got no problem with that. I don't really have a problem, as I said, with Juju's fumble. It's unfortunate. It happens. I don't like Ridley's fumble, but I didn't like the Ridley play call. To me, It was a foolish call, and even if Ben should have checked out of it if he could have. It was the box was absolutely stuffed. There was no prayer that was going to work. And I hated that call. But be that as it may, look, Ridley has cost them several times on fumbles now. I don't think he'll see another snap, and I don't think he'll be back next year. We can leave all that for speculation later. But look at just what they did. Look, Juju Smith-Schuster has 11 catches for 115 yards. Antonio Brown has 14 for 185 and 2 TDs. These guys who are your stars showed up. Juju made a mistake at the end of the game. It's unfortunate. It happened. Ben throws for 380 and 3 TDs and a 108 rating. You cannot place – if you looked at those stats, right, and somebody said, here's what this is going to look like, you'd be taking that. You'd be like, all right, this is a team that never loses at home.
Yeah.
And maybe we found out why, but maybe we found out why. Maybe maybe if we'd watched more Saints games, we'd understand the way that the refs call games there. But I don't know. The defense. Talk about grown ass man. To get back to that, I got to give one to TJ because I kind of slighted him a little bit last week when I gave the entire defense one and didn't mention him specifically. TJ Watt was just a beast today. He gets the 1 sack, but he's chasing Breeze all over the place, and he's making his life miserable. He blows up the one play on Ingram and just plows him into the ground, knocks the ball loose. And that's going to remind me of other things.
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up more than once.
Both of those were fumbles, in my view. If the rule, stop talking about football moves. The guy catches the ball and turns. The first one was way worse.
Yes,
the first one, I get why Mike Tomlin doesn't challenge it because he hasn't had great success in challenging it, but that was a fumble. I thought the Ingram one was a fumble. That one was much more close, and it was a bang-bang play. I would never have challenged the second one. If it was me, Agreed. I'd have challenged the first one.
Agreed. Oh, it reminds me of Edmonds right after they play Renegade in the stadium with the Chargers, and he puts his helmet right on Eckler, and nobody talks about this. This is just I can't believe that nobody makes mention of this. I mean, I don't know. We're talking about I like that Antonio Brown drags his foot. We see smoke. We're talking about this type of stuff when we could see replays of it. But clear to me that I'm trying to think how the first one ended up this way. But it was like it was caught, turned to look up field, and bang. Sean Davis, who grown ass man, definitely goes up, gets the ball. Everybody always asks where's he at. Tracks the ball like a center fielder, comes down with the pick to start the game. That takes away points. The Steelers actually get a field goal off of that exchange, too, so they get points off of the turnover. Kudos. Splash play. Those are things you got to do in order to win. He puts his helmet on the ball there, and you're thinking, well, he's caused another turnover. Nope. Not happening. Much to what you're saying, Brian, who would have thought that the Steelers would go into the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, outgain the Saints both in passing and on the ground, 429 to 370 total, have the ball longer, almost 3 minutes longer, about 240, and my math is fuzzy, 31:20 to 28:40 here. And, and not come out with a victory here, and it's the turnover battle once again, is that the final turnover definitely did them in where they're driving. You got a minute and a half left with Big Ben and company, and, anything can happen there, and you're just hoping that not the bad things happen. And unfortunately, that's the way the game ends up. I don't know, man. I feel so bad for – I thought Morgan Burnett played a heck of a game as well. I thought Cody Sensabaugh played a heck of a game. I mean, these are some surprising names maybe because Burnett I was pretty hard on after the Raiders game. Cody Sensabaugh, I think people have always been tough on. You don't hear his name a whole lot. You shouldn't have heard Joe Hayden's name at all if the officials even take one of those calls and turns it around one way in his favor. He's a hero. He's a defensive player of the week again. And instead, he ends up being another scapegoat, which I'm not too happy about overall. I'm not sure who else I could really Juju, I think we got to put that. Juju has hit the end of the line in the game of checkers. King him. He's double the grown-ass man because he went out there on reportedly a bad groin and still went and caught 11 of these balls for 115. He gave it his absolute all. And that's all the more you could ask from some of these guys. Now they need help. And just jumping over to that real quick, the Browns have been hot The Browns also own a victory over the Ravens, but they have to go into Baltimore. The thing with Baltimore is I don't see a whole lot from their offense that excites me a whole lot to necessarily think this is still the Cleveland Browns, and they're still playing at home in Baltimore, and now they're leading the division, and now they have the momentum, and they know win and you're in, and a whole bunch of other things have to happen with like the Colts and the Titans and that. If that would be worst case scenario for the Steelers. I was trying to remember what Rich Eisen said, but I forgot. It was something to the effect of it may even be null and void now. I think all this stuff shifts and changes, so I'm not going to say anything that's inaccurate. Let's just say they need help in order to make the postseason. And the division's still on the line. They beat the Bengals. They still control their destiny somewhat. Cleveland comes out with a victory somehow, and Baltimore, I can't even say somehow. They're almost going to match the Steelers' record for this year, which is just wild. And they've had a bunch of overtime losses, and of course, this strange tie that, once again, if the Steelers come out with a victory week 1, we're not talking about this either. So just looking at the big picture, folks, we still place quite a bit of blame on the Steelers for controlling their own destiny with this postseason and everything like this. It would be incredibly disappointing to not see them make an appearance in the playoffs this year, given how talented this roster is and how far they've come this year. But there's still a lot of blame to place on them versus just the 2 games we really want to complain about right now, especially the one that was just played.
Yeah, we're going to look back at this game, and we're always going to be disappointed in the outcome. But here's the thing: this was a very inspired performance. I mean, these guys played as a unit. The defense played well. The offense played well. If you go back and you take out the bogus nonsense that shouldn't have happened, this would have been, a game that we would have been talking about for years to come in a positive way. But
like 28-17 Steelers win or something to that effect, I'm thinking.
Exactly. But, they are a team that, as I said, they can beat anyone. What they can't do is beat 2 teams. And sometimes that other team is wearing referees' uniforms. Sometimes that other team is wearing Steelers' uniforms.
Yeah.
They cannot beat themselves and the other team, and they cannot beat the other team and the rest. But if it's a one-on-one matchup, they can win. So they needed to be perfect today, playing against the best team probably in the NFL at this point, or one of the top 3 teams in the NFL. And they handled them for the most part. They probably should have won the game. And but they needed to be perfect, and they weren't perfect. 3 glaring errors that if they don't make, allow them to overcome even the refs. And so while I can't 100% place the blame on the refereeing or the officiating, I still say it's a part of it. But the Steelers had their opportunities to win this game outside of all that. As I said, we're just going to end up lamenting this
forever
until next week. Forever, yeah, until next week when the Browns are going to make us all happy, and we're gonna all be big Brownie fans, and they're going to beat the Ravens.
Well, you know what? If it's the lesser of 2 evils, which a lot of people look at certain things like, I don't know, presidential elections and things of that nature as lesser of 2 evils, this is certainly a lesser of 2 evils situation where you have to actually pull for the Browns over the Ravens. And given the way the Browns have been horribly abysmal for many, many seasons, I think we could at least suck it up for once and get behind them for the greater good, and that is the Steelers to make the playoffs. But, Brian, you could lament as much as you want because today is Festivus. We do have...
Yes, it is.
We were airing grievances. I have one more in the feats of strength as far as grown-ass men that I almost forgot, and that is a Mr. LJ Fort for blocking a field goal.
And it was a grown-ass man effort to do it. Because this is not a guy coming off the side and, leaping out. He had to go through guys to get there. Awesome job by LJ Fort. Definitely grown-ass man.
Yeah, definitely. We had some of those. I mean, this game lived up to everything it was advertised as far as, way the not the scoreboard as far as win-losses, but points that were put up, the drama, the back and forth, the two great quarterbacks, the star players, everything of that nature lived up to the billing. Unfortunately, just not in the Steelers' favor. It is Festivus. We could talk about it for much longer in Era Grievances. I'm sure we'll be doing that later in the week. But, folks, as you know, we're headed into the holidays here. So I wanted to end on a positive note, but I don't have much else positive to think of at this point, because it would be much more positive if we had a Steelers gift in time for Christmas, and that would have been a victory over the Saints. Unfortunately, now we got to hope that there's some gifts given their way in the form of, it's literally, I think that's the only situation that's left is that basically, because you know what, the Chargers have already locked up their wild card, and I'm just thinking the way here, the Titans and the Colts were already 9-6, and the Steelers are 8-6-1. So I don't know if either of those,
and they play each other. So So the last game is the Titans and the Colts. So the only scenario. Somebody tweeted that if the Colts and the Titans tied, the Steelers would get in. Not 100% sure that's true. They might have a division record against them, or the conference record might be better. I don't think that it is, but it's possible. But I'm certainly not counting on a tie. The most realistic scenario that works, and I think the only one that's valid, is the Browns beat the Ravens, the Steelers beat the Bengals. That puts the Ravens probably out of the playoffs, and the Steelers division champs. That's the kind of crazy season this is.
Yeah, how wild is that? That Baltimore, actually going into Sunday's games here, they had a shot to still be the 2 seed and have a bye. Now they're now they're dropped down to like 4th or whatever, but still it's either they win the division and host the home game, or they're completely sitting at home watching someone else like the Steelers play. So we're hoping for that. Brian, a Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to our listeners. For those of you who may not be of the Christmas celebrating type, also Merry Christmas. I'll say a happy holidays and season greetings to you as well. Our programming will probably be light through the week, but looking to find Trey Johnson for the pregame show once again. And you never know when myself or Brian will feel inspired by the Yinzers to speak our mind a little bit more in the coming days. But we're going to have some post-game coverage over on the website, and then for Christmas, everyone is off to enjoy with their friends and family. So we're going to all do that same thing here and kind of try and take it easy, compose ourselves, collect ourselves, and try to enjoy the holiday and put the aluminum pole with its great strength to weight ratio back into the crawl space so we don't have to wrestle each other for Festivus to not be over. Because right now I probably have enough strength that if we had to go, me and you right now, Brian, wrestling match, Festivus isn't over, we probably have enough energy for this to last several days. So
yeah, well, I'm old.
This is true, but you also have a weight to strength ratio that's quite amazing. This guy here, as a center of gravity, is probably Rosie Nix like. So if you ever meet Brian,
yeah, something like that. That's I was a guard, man.
Hey, can't hold that against you. So, but anyways, folks, I don't know, Brian, if you got anything else to say to all of our listeners, but thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we've got more than just Week 17 to look forward to coming up. So once again, happy holidays, and I'll probably be saying Happy New Year at some point in a future episode, so I won't go that far yet. We're not signing off for all of 2017. Not yet. Not completely over.
Yeah, I just want to echo your thoughts. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to whatever your holiday persuasion is at this time of the year. Certainly appreciate all the great commentary and interactions we've had both on Twitter and on YouTube with the listeners. Keep it up, and let's keep our heads up as best we can and hope for a post-Christmas present.
Absolutely, and you had me thinking of something else, and now it escapes me. So I think we're just going to put a bow on this show, and we'll catch everyone else later in the week. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for your support and the comments. Keep it clean, please. And if there are some Saints fans out there, hey, kudos for the game-winning drive there at the end, but. Yeah, you got some help. Anyways, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. Everyone, this holiday season, be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.